And after IBEW, we have the Nature Conservancy. I'd like to remind everyone that because of the interest of time, we are asking for 5-minute presentations by the different groups. Obviously, if legislators have questions, we will follow up. But we would like to have you not necessarily read your testimony if you want to. If it's under 5 minutes, that's fine. But if you want to just maybe hit the highlights, that's also fine. So thank you and welcome.
Yes, thank you. As you introduced, my name is Dan Mackold. I'm with the IBEW Local 97. We represent 4,000 utility employees in New York State's electric, natural gas, transmission, distribution, and power generation industry. We sincerely appreciate the opportunity to present today and would like to thank the chairs for presiding over an issue that's taking increasing impact on our members and the communities in which we live and work. The state is engaged in an unprecedented effort to reduce emissions associated with climate change, and those efforts are squarely focused on the energy sector rather than transportation and other sectors that emit equal or greater amounts of carbon emissions. As this effort moves forward, it's critical that the playing field be as level as possible to prevent harmful impacts to our state's economy and energy independence. Our own fossil generators are now either mothballed or in the midst of retirement, impacting the livelihood of 146 members in Western New York. The need for power is essential in virtually every aspect of our daily lives, from commerce to home life, and is well documented that energy independence is imperative for New York State's security and economy. This fact, along with an alarming spike in efforts to import power from other states and countries to satisfy New York power needs, raises the concerns that brought us here today. First, it is our understanding that emissions counted in New York only track data from power generators located in New York. This must be corrected, and emissions from imports must be counted in the New York statistics. As an example, one of our employers lost their reliability services agreement in southwestern New York State the moment that a major new substation became energized at the Pennsylvania border. Evidence supports the fact that imports from Pennsylvania through this new substation enable the retirement of this generation property. Importing power while exporting New York jobs and deteriorating New York's energy independence is bad economic policy. Worse yet, and for the purposes of this hearing, Pennsylvania has over 70 coal-fired power plants from the most recent statistics. That makes up nearly 40% of the power portfolio coming into New York from Pennsylvania, while New York is in the midst of proactively closing their few remaining coal-fired generators. As well, New York generators are also required to pay into RGGI, driving up costs and ability to compete, while Pennsylvania opts out of the RGGI program. New Jersey as well, where New York has raised imports in recent years, such as the costly HTP cable import project from New Jersey into New York that has tens of millions of dollars in annual losses borne by the New York Power Authority. While limiting interstate commerce through imports is likely insurmountable, the playing field must be leveled regarding emissions reported from imports if New York is sincere about carbon reduction. On the surface, when a coal-fired New York power plant retires, it appears that New York can claim victory for reducing emissions. But when imports are responsible for dramatically higher emissions, these must be accounted for and included in New York's emissions profile. This is the least that is owed to our members who have lost their jobs and will now be unable to pay their mortgage and support their families and communities, and who are told by environmentalists that this is a necessary sacrifice. Equally disturbing are increasing foreign imports from Ontario and Quebec, where New York generators are required to compete with government-owned and subsidized entities such as Ontario Hydro and Hydro-Quebec. In addition to further threatening New York's jobs and community tax revenues, this increasing practice is contrary to Congress's Energy Independence and Security Act of 2007, prefaced as an act to move the United States toward greater energy independence and security. Finally, as New York is aggressively moving ahead with emission reduction efforts and development of carbon-free power generation with regards to accomplishing these objectives without eviscerating power generation employment and community tax revenues, we will equally and aggressively support requiring emissions from imports be counted in New York statistics. If electric imports run the New York State air conditioners and factory motors, associated emissions must be transparent, reported, recorded, and made public. Current cases at the New York State Department of Public Service are now calculating a price for carbon to be provided to zero carbon energy sources. This value must be equally applied without prejudice to all zero-carbon power generation, but particularly zero-carbon nuclear facilities, currently distressed due to low natural gas prices and delayed New York transmission projects. Nuclear generation assets are imperative to New York's carbon reduction efforts, and equal treatment for carbon reduction benefits must be delivered, or the competitive New York energy markets will be imploded. In addition, New York utilities must be allowed to own and operate large-scale renewable projects if they are cost-effective and in the best interests of ratepayers. Members of the IBEW have listened to environmental groups' claims that our lost fossil jobs will be replaced by green energy jobs. This simply has not occurred. And the growing body count of lost New York power generation employment must be balanced through new employment opportunities that could be provided through cost-effective utility ownership of large-scale renewable projects. Thank you for your time and attention to these critical issues.
Thank you so much for that testimony. I believe that it is excellent. It's right on target. It's raising important issues that we are dealing with, and I want to thank you, especially because we have worked together to save the NRG plant in Dunkirk, and we've got a lot of important work to do going forward. You may have heard me testify, or not testify, but remark earlier to Public Service Commission that we need to make sure that we keep our base load plants operating in New York State. It is critical to the future of the state if we're ever going to be energy independent, control our own destinies, and have manufacturing jobs actually stay and grow in New York State. So I want to thank you for all that you've done, and these are critical issues. I believe we should count emissions from power that is being generated in other states and imported here, and so thank you for raising these. Any questions?
I have one question.
Senator Kruger.
On your very last point, recommending that utilities be allowed to own large-scale renewable projects, is there some law that says they can't now?
They were required to divest in the 90s.
Uh-huh. So that would require a change in the New York State statutes through the legislature?
That would be my understanding. Yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jessica Otney Mahar from the Nature Conservancy, and following her will be Audubon, New York. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for hanging in there.
Thank you for hanging in there.
I'm Jessica Otney Mahar, and I'm the Policy Director for the Nature Conservancy in New York. And on behalf of our 85,000 members in New York State, we are appreciative of the opportunity to be heard today. We wanted to start by thanking all of you, in particular our two chairmen, Senator O'Mara and Assemblyman Engelbright, as our champions for environmental funding. We were extraordinarily grateful for the work that you and Governor Cuomo did last year to increase the EPF by $15 million and to create the $200 million Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. That was a tremendous victory, and we thank you for your leadership. Normally I come here and I thank you for your leadership, and I talk about how the executive proposal is a good first step, and then I ask you to go further. And this year, fortunately, I'm in a different position. This year, Governor Cuomo has made a historic proposal. He's proposed increasing the EPF to a level that we have all been advocating for a long time. He's proposed to increase the EPF to $300 million, which is a goal that we have shared with the legislature since you all nearly unanimously passed legislation to do that in 2007. We were a little sidelined from our goal because of an economic crisis, but we're now back, and we're very excited. And so I'm here to urge you as strongly as possible to please do everything in your power to ensure that that $300 million EPF is included in the enacted budget this year. I wanted to talk a little bit about the EPF and why it's so important for New York. I think you guys know that the best because you serve districts that it's touching down in. But it's a partnership program that impacts the whole state. And it's an opportunity for the state to work with organizations like my own, the Nature Conservancy, as well as municipalities like the ones in your communities. And it works on issues that create jobs, that build resilience for people for the future, and that really provide leverage in communities across the state. This year, the governor is proposing a few new programs, a climate mitigation and resilience program. We're looking forward to learning more about what those funds will go towards. There are a lot of programs within the EPF that build resilience already, but we believe that having a program with the express purpose of increasing resilience and combating climate change is smart. There's a new environmental justice program that's been proposed. The Nature Conservancy has recently launched a cities program. As we careen towards a world with 9 billion people, our cities are going to be places that demand more natural resources and that demand more nature, and where people will need nature. And so we're also looking forward to learning more about what's envisioned for that program and determining how we may be able to support the state in implementing that. I just wanted to quickly point out, I put some statistics in my testimony about the public support for the EPF. We did a poll with some partners over the summer, at the very end of summer, and the results we found were absolutely tremendous. We poll every few years in New York State, and these were the best numbers I've ever seen. We had 73% of New York voters supporting a $300 million EPF. And this cut across geographic lines, it cut across demographic lines, it cut across political lines. So it was very representative of everyone in the legislature, all regions, all political parties, genders, race. And so I'm very comfortable saying that all of your constituents are with me in supporting this EPF proposal. The other proposal I wanted to talk about today was the governor's proposal to increase the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. He's proposing to add another $100 million to that program. We think this is tremendously important funding. 2 weeks ago, you might have seen the news that a 33-inch water main in the city of Troy, just up the river here, blew, and it flooded a huge part of the city, basements, a whole section of the community. It cut off potable water to 3 different towns. My town, Colony, New York, last winter had over 100 water main breaks just in my town. And so some of this water infrastructure in our communities is in the ground. It was put there when Lincoln was president. We need to fix this. So the increase the governor has proposed for that is great. If you can go further, that's also great. In addition to these pieces, I would like to say there's an Article 7 to increase the state share for the local waterfront revitalization program. We strongly support that. That's a program or a proposal that's been out there for a while that would deploy that program in a lot of other communities across the state, and I think that's important. It would also fund more work on resilience planning. And we also support the capital proposals for spending on state parks and New York State DEC.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Assemblyman Engelbart.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Nature Conservancy for the role your organization played in helping to gather advocates together from not only within your own organization but across the spectrum over this last year. I think a large part of why we're feeling so good about this budget is because of your hard work. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the great work that you do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Aaron Crotty, Executive Director of Audubon, New York. And after Executive Director Crotty, we'll have Citizens Campaign for the Environment.
Hi.
Hi, great to see you again.
Good evening. It's nice to see you too. Thanks so much for having me. I'll hopefully not take the whole 5 minutes. I want to thank you for your leadership. I also want to remind you that Audubon's mission is to protect birds and their habitat, and we do that by connecting our vast network along the migratory flyways of the Americas, and New York State is certainly a critical component of that. As Jess said, the governor's budget proposal is truly a historic investment in safeguarding our environment and natural resources. And providing economic opportunity for us all. Audubon is very supportive of the $300 million proposed appropriation for the Environmental Protection Fund. We were part of the coalition that was led very ably by the Nature Conservancy and are eager to work with you on that. We would like to see actually the appropriation for the voluntary private landowner incentive program to be increased to $2 million. This is the program that offers grants on a competitive basis to landowners to do habitat conservation plans on their property. The majority of wildlife habitat in New York is still owned by private people. It's hard to believe that in some realms, but the majority of our wildlife habitat is still owned by private owners. So we Audubon works directly with private landowners throughout New York on developing management plans for grasslands and shrublands and forests. And we know firsthand that this funding is a catalyst for them to actually take action to improve habitat. And we think at Audubon that the state is in a pivotal position right now for leadership on this issue because the federal government unfortunately has cut funding in this particular area in the latest omnibus bill, and my testimony speaks to that. We know that these dollars put people to work, but it also improves the habitat in New York for birds and other wildlife, which is great for people and birds. We also, on another private landowner incentive, we would like the legislature to consider is forest tax law, 480A. You heard it talked about a couple of times today. We're very supportive of that. We're very supportive as well of the $90 million for the Parks 2020 initiative, and we're really proud of our partnership with state parks called Audubon in the Parks. We're supportive of the $40 million for DEC in their capital, and very hopeful that some of the funding will be directed to connecting bird watchers and other outdoor enthusiasts with untapped state-owned lands. And we're also truly grateful for your leadership last year and your foresight in enacting the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. And your commitment of $200 million over 3 fiscal years. We're supportive of the additional $100 million in the governor's proposed budget, but given the tremendous need for wastewater, $36 billion, and drinking water, $38 billion, in infrastructure improvement projects, we know that this municipal grant program is often a catalyst for these projects to move forward. So we're looking forward to working with you and our partners on hopefully increasing this appropriation further through the budget process. Jess mentioned the Troy example. I know Mayor Madden was here. Troy's my hometown. My paternal grandmother was a Lansing, the original family that founded Lansingburg, and I think that the pipe was probably installed when Lansing found Lansingburg. It is a really poignant example of the need and the exponential costs that are associated with aging, what happens when aging infrastructure fails. It really is a prevention tool, and a wonderful one at that. And finally, I want to thank Assemblyman Engelbright for raising Plum Island and the importance of Plum Island. Plum Island is an important bird area. It's globally significant for migratory species. We're working with our partners, and we're certainly working at the federal level as well to try to get the island protected for birds and wildlife. So thank you very much. On behalf of Audubon and our vast network, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We really appreciate you being here, especially as a
Sure.
former commissioner, so
Yeah,
thank you very
thanks.
much.
Great.
Our next
Thank you.
speaker is Brian Smith, Associate Executive Director, Citizens Campaign for the Environment. And following Brian Smith, we will have Environmental Advocates of New York. Welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Again, my name is Brian Smith. I'm the Associate Executive Director at Citizens Campaign for the Environment, or CCE. I'm here today on behalf of our 80,000 members, and I want to start off by joining this broad choir of my environmental colleagues, legislators who have all praised the governor's proposal to fund the EPF at $300 million. Obviously, the need is there. It was mentioned earlier, the need was there back in 2007. But given the financial situation in the state, we couldn't get there. But we know the need and the benefits of making these investments are there to justify a $300 million EPF. So we strongly support that. And we do support numerous categories within the Environmental Protection Fund. But I do want to highlight a few that are particularly important from our perspective. Within the water quality improvement line, there are some very important programs that will help address the most pressing issues, water quality issues we're facing on Long Island. In particular, the funding to help fund the construction of the Bay Park sewage ocean outfall pipe to help bring the western bays back to life, as well as Suffolk County working to reduce nitrogen pollution and upgrade sewer systems and septic systems that are really degrading the ecosystem and threatening public health. Also, the Ocean and Great Lakes line, which is proposed by the governor to be funded at $15 million. You know, we're lucky to be the only state that has both Great Lakes and ocean coastline, but we also have a massive responsibility to protect and restore them. This more than doubling of this category puts it more in line where we feel it needs to be to address the many issues and needs we have in our ocean and Great Lakes resources. And it's not that we're spending these money blindly either. We have a Great Lakes Action Agenda, which is guiding a lot of the funding in the Great Lakes, and we're finishing the New York Ocean Action Plan to guide those efforts as well. I do want to touch on another issue outside the EPF. We do see an opportunity in the budget to address an emerging contaminant, that being pharmaceutical drugs. It turns out that the old habit by public and healthcare facilities of flushing drugs is a hard one to break. We're seeing that these drugs are going down the drain. They're not treated by the sewage treatment facilities, and we're finding trace amounts of these drugs all throughout our waters throughout the state. Whereas with other emerging contaminants, we look at microbeads and things like that where we can ban them. We can't ban pharmaceutical drugs. You know, society loves them way too much. What we can do is we can provide options for safe pharmaceutical disposal and prevent this problem from happening. There's two important programs, one being a DEC program that started in New York City, expanded to Monroe County, and then to Long Island, which goes to healthcare facilities and picks up the stockpiles of unused, expired drugs and takes them away for safe disposal. Very important program, working very well in those regions, but the need is all across the state. So we're urging the legislature to look at expanding this program to $1.35 million so the entire state can be covered. What really compounds the need now, too, is that the EPA actually proposed regulations that's going to ban healthcare facilities from flushing their drugs. So now that we're going to say, they're going to be told by the federal government they can't flush, we need to give them resources to be responsible with the waste. In addition to the DEC program, there was another program for a statewide take-back program that actually went through DOH last year that was more focused on residential take-back programs. It's putting drop boxes in police precincts, retail pharmacies. It's held over 30 individual take-back days. We've collected thousands of pounds, the Department of Health, through this program. And we want to see that continue so the public has more access to the safe disposal, not just for environmental concerns, but of course, this takes it out of the cabinet so we're not being abused, as we see happen so often. Also want to, echo what I've heard from many others, that we really appreciate the legislature's work on the $200 million for clean water infrastructure last year and the proposed $100 million increase this year. It's going to go a long way in the state stepping up and helping address this problem because, of course, local governments can't handle it alone. The federal government investments are going down. In fact, this last omnibus budget that was passed, we saw a nearly 50% decrease from where we were at in 2010. So we welcome these increases, but we want, the needs are massive. Everybody said it, $70+ billion. Anything we can do in the budget to increase that number would be welcome. Lastly, even if we're going to address our sewage infrastructure as aggressively as we possibly can, it's going to take a long time to fix this, and we're going to be dealing with sewage overflows for quite some time. The legislature passed the Sewage Pollution Right to Know Act back in 2012 to give the public timely information about sewage overflow so we're not taking our kids out fishing or swimming or playing in water recently contaminated. Lately, the DEC deserves a lot of credit in implementing this law. You can get alerts on your phone, emails and texts letting you know when where they occur, sewage overflows. So they deserve a lot of credit, but we still have a lot of work to do to help a number of the communities, particular communities with combined sewer systems that don't have the monitoring and the modeling to actually detect this and report it. And those are actually the largest source of sewage overflows across the state. So there was reappropriations to help 8 to 10 communities implement the monitoring and modeling needed to report these overflows. We're advocating for an additional $500,000 to let more communities, because there's upwards of 75 of these CSO communities that need this technology to be able to report this and protect the residents in their communities.
Thank you. Excellent input. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Peter Iwanowitz, Executive Director, Environmental Advocates of New York. And following Peter, we'll have the New York League of Conservation Voters. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and thank you for the diligence you put into all the budget hearings. Governor Cuomo's 2016 and 17 executive budget proposal includes some positive policy proposals that would help protect New York's environment and public health. Chief among these, obviously, is the tremendous increase to the Environmental Protection Fund at $300 million. We wholly support that and urge you to enact that into law. We're particularly pleased to see the efforts for climate change, supporting climate-smart communities, as well as the $1 million that was sort of set aside for the Centers of Environmental Health. That's a new aspect to the EPF this year, and I think it's tremendous that has found its way into the governor's proposal. I think we share some concerns that were expressed several hours ago this morning about out years funding for the Environmental Protection Fund. This year it is one-shot revenue from the settlement proceeds, and the governor's going to have to figure out how to do that in years 3, 4, and 5 of the fiscal year budget, or 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the fiscal year budget. We're very supportive of, obviously, additional funds to go in to help communities fix their pipes. The program you all created last year after the governor did not have it in his original proposal is tremendous. You should be credited for that, of bringing together with the governor huge resources. We're happy he's adding more. It seems like there's a lot of enthusiasm to do even more. So let's try to do that together. I'd like to say I was happy about the state's commitment on the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, but after listening to the testimony of Acting Commissioner Segos, I'm less sure about that commitment, even though the governor is not proposing a delay in his original budget proposal. Senator Young, you were original co-sponsor of that bill with Senator Winter, and I know Senator Kruger, you voted for it, and Assemblyman Engelbright, you did as well. I think it may have predated your tenure, Senator Savino, but thank you for those that supported it. Let's implement that now. It's 10 years old. Let's do it. Let's finish it. There are aspects of the governor's proposal that would take New York actually in the wrong direction by making it harder for New York to achieve its climate and clean energy goals, and here they are in brief. We oppose the raid of RGGI funds, the $38 million taken from NYSERDA's program and put onto the budget. We believe those resources should be used by NYSERDA to further drive down carbon pollution as they've been doing historically with RGGI, and the general fund should pay for tax credits as it's done for many years. As it's been noted by Assemblyman Kavanaugh earlier, some of these tax credits have been on the books since the Pataki administration, one of them since 1997. Let's have the general fund pay for those and use RGGI to do even more. We're not pleased that the agency staffing levels are being held constant this year over last year, at DEC in particular. Their workload is certainly going to go up. The challenges are tremendous. Witness what's happening in real time at Hoosick Falls, and we think the agency should be increasing staff lines rather than holding them steady. Another piece I want to do, and we may have found some money for you all, and this is where the inconsistency of the governor's approach in being a national leader on climate comes into play. This year, he's pulling out that $120 million in settlement funds and dedicating it towards the EPF. The executive is also proposing nearly 3 times that amount and pulling it aside, not spending it this year, but spending it in the next 3 years after this, for incentivizing driving in the thruway. This is the $340 million thruway user tax credit program that will be dispersed in fiscal year 17, 18, and 19 into 20. That's cash. It's on the table now. It could be used for communities to fix their pipes. It could be used to do more things to drive down climate pollution. Let me just sort of wrap up with perspective here in the next minute. This is the first budget we have before us after the governor has made very bold commitments for New York State's climate and clean energy goals. You've heard a lot about them today. It is the biggest challenge facing this and future generations, and I personally agree with the governor, as he said back in October with Al Gore, climate change is a reality, and not to address it is gross negligence by government and irresponsible of its citizens. And I think we have the opportunity today to really sort of wrap ourselves in the mantle of what the governor said and move New York State forward. Governor Cuomo would like New York to be known as a climate leader. As a New Yorker, as an environmentalist, and as a dad, I would too. We're not there yet. Witness the $340 million spent on incentivizing driving. If you haven't seen them yet, the goals in the state energy plan are big and bold and something that we all should support. But I think, as you heard in earlier testimony today, we don't have a plan, nor the prospects of a plan of actually how to get there. And I think we need to work together to put that plan. So just to sort of wrap up, this is the budget that I think our future climate progress is built upon. This is the foundation for everything else that will go forward. The magnitude of the threat is enormous. The challenges are there. The impacts are being felt. And I think we have the opportunity this year to begin with this budget addressing the impacts of climate change. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Director. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming today. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Krueger does have a question.
Thank you. I appreciate your testimony, of course. One thing I don't think you touched on the testimony, but I know in your previous life you worked at DEC. So we have these giant new responsibilities to take on. We have commitments to, as you put it, make us the environmental, giant in states. Do they have the staff to do what needs to be done?
I mean, they have an amazingly talented staff, and as you mentioned, I worked there. I was the acting commissioner for a short, brief tenure of my end of time in government. They have wonderful scientists there, but I don't think anybody can say that they've got enough people to do the job and the task before them. I don't buy into the sort of the logic that you can do more with less. I think in this instance, when you talk about strong environmental standards, when you talk about public health being placed at risk by not having clean water to drink, the magnitude of the challenge that is before us on climate change, and the enormity of the rules to meet what the governor has set out for a challenge. The 80% challenge that the governor has laid out as a goal for New York State to reduce greenhouse gases by that number in 34 years, that essentially is the equivalent of 100% clean energy in that time. We're off fossil fuels. A lot of that is going to fall on the shoulders of the people at DEC, and they're going to need more resources, more scientists to do that.
I agree. I just had to ask you on the record. Thank you.
Yes, Assemblyman Engelbright.
I just I have many thoughts, but they don't really add too much to what you've already said. So rather than create a longer, what are we now, 5:15, a longer day, I would just like to say I would welcome a chance to sit down and listen to your more detailed thoughts, if that's possible. And I just wanted to say thank you for your advocacy. It is heartening and inspirational.